Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a really wild idea. What if the struggles of your ancestors actually left a physical, biological echo inside you? It sounds like something out of a movie, but we're going to break down some incredible new research that suggests it's very, very real. So, here's the big question we're digging into. Can the memory of a really stressful event be passed down to people who never even lived through it? I know, it sounds kind of out there. But new evidence is showing that our bodies have this uncanny way of remembering, of getting trauma under the skin, and actually shaping the biology of the next generation.
Okay, so to really get our heads around how this could possibly work, we've got to go back to the very beginning, to those first few moments of life where the most basic bonds of trust and safety are forged.
For a lot of mammals, and yeah, that includes us, there's this super important window of time right after birth called the attachment-sensitive period. You can think of it as a time when an infant's brain is basically a sponge, wired to learn one critical thing: who takes care of me? And a huge part of that learning happens through smell. It's how the scent of safety, warmth, and food gets locked in. So, what happens if that crucial learning process gets all scrambled up? Well, a study back in 2020 decided to find out. They created a really unstable environment for newborn rat pups by constantly swapping them between different mothers during that sensitive learning window. And the results? Wow, it was like night and day. The pups who had one stable caregiver clearly preferred her scent, but the pups with the unpredictable care, they showed no preference at all. They just couldn't form that critical bond. The inconsistency meant they never learned who to trust. But believe it or not, this is just where the story begins. Because the effects of that early disruption, they didn't just go away. They echoed forward in a way that, frankly, nobody saw coming. A more recent study, this one from 2023 in the journal Science Advances, picked up this exact trail. Researchers asked a really powerful question. Could the consequences of that early instability last not just for one lifetime, but for generations? So they set up this amazing three-generation experiment. You have the first generation, let's call them F0, who went through that unstable caregiving. But, and this is the most important part, their kids, the F1 generation, and their grandkids, the F2 generation, were all raised completely normally. They never experienced any of that chaos themselves. And what they found was just stunning. When they exposed the animals to air with high CO2, which gives you this mild feeling of suffocation, the animals from that original adversity group freaked out way more. Their bodies completely overreacted. And here's the kicker. This exact trait was passed down perfectly to their children and their grandchildren. And it wasn't just breathing. They saw the exact same pattern with pain. The animals from the adversity lineage were hypersensitive. They pulled away from a heat source way faster than the control animals. It's like their biological alarm system was permanently cranked up to 11. And that setting was inherited. Okay, this leads us right to the central mystery of all this. How? How is the body physically remembering an event that the kids and grandkids never even went through? The answer isn't a memory, like a thought or an image in your head. No, this memory is written into the very molecules that work as the brain's own threat detectors. These molecules are called acid-sensing ion channels, or ASICs for short. The easiest way to think about them is as tiny little alarm bells on your nerve cells. They're designed to detect changes in acidity in your body, the kind of stuff that happens when CO2 builds up or when there's tissue damage. And they basically scream danger to your brain. They're a fundamental piece of our built-in harm detection system. So when the researchers looked at the brains of the mice from the adversity lineage, they found the smoking gun. In the exact parts of the brain that control breathing and coordinate the response to pain and threats, there were way more of these ASIC alarm bells. But in other parts of the brain, like the visual cortex, everything was totally normal. The memory was a physical overabundance of threat sensors, but only in the brain's central alarm system. So if this molecular change is the biological memory, the next huge question is obvious, right? Can you erase it? Is it possible to reset the system back to factory settings? To prove that these ASICs were really the cause of all this, the scientists ran this absolutely brilliant experiment. They took the hypersensitive mice from the adversity lineage and gave them a single inhaled dose of a drug called amiloride, which is known to basically switch off these ASIC channels. And then they tested them again. And get this, the results were immediate and just incredible. This chart shows the pain response, but it was exactly the same for the CO2 sensitivity.
With just one dose, that inherited hypersensitivity was completely gone. The mice from the adversity line were suddenly behaving just like the normal control mice. It was definitive proof that these ASICs were the key.
So let's bring this all home because this research does more than just explain what's happening in mice. It builds a stunning bridge from the lab to understanding our own health.
What this gives us is a powerful new biological model for understanding how adversity in childhood can create a real, lasting vulnerability to things like anxiety disorders, panic attacks, and even chronic pain later in life. And when you look at humans, the parallels are they're everywhere. We've known for a long time there are strong links between things like childhood separation and adult panic disorder. We know that people with anxiety are often hypersensitive to CO2, just like the mice. We even know that our own human genes for these ASIC channels are linked to both panic and pain. This research connects all those dots, and it might even point the way to a whole new kind of therapy. The researchers themselves put it perfectly. They called it a biological memory reducible to a molecular sensor. It's this incredible mechanism that explains how the ghost of an experience can literally haunt a family line for generations. And that leaves us with a final, really powerful idea to think about. We've just seen how adversity can physically change our biology, leaving a mark that can be passed down. But the fact that this mark can be reversed, that the system can be reset, well, that offers a whole new way of thinking. It suggests that if trauma can write itself into our biology, maybe, just maybe, healing can too.